Greetings to all fans of good movies. In this video, I'm going to tell you about a drama movie based on a true story called Awakenings.
Can you hear me?
At the beginning of the movie, we are shown the story of a boy. Leonard Lowe grew up as an ordinary child. He studied well at school and often spent his free time with friends. Gradually, the boy began to be overcome by a strange illness. His speech and movements became sluggish, and his hands became numb and disobedient. The film is set in 1969. Dr. Malcolm Sayer comes to a hospital in the Bronx, hoping to get a job as a lab assistant in the neurology department. During the interview, he is told that the hospital only has chronic patients who do not need special treatment. They need another neurologist to take care of the regular patients. Our character is not suitable for this position. He is more attracted by experimental activity. After hearing the proposal, he politely refuses and is about to leave, but the head of the department stops him and persuades him.
You do want the job, don't you?
Later, an orderly shows the new doctor around. Looking at the chronically ill, our character cannot accept their hopelessness. The past experimental activity has taught him to question everything. The first working day is not easy for the doctor. The nurse notices it and says that in time he will get used to such a madhouse. In the evening, our character comes home. We see that the man is lonely, as well as the impression that he is interested in nothing but his own experiments. The next day, the doctor sees his first patient. The woman is silent, sitting motionless in a chair, staring at the ceiling. By a stroke of luck, Malcolm manages to elicit a slight reaction from his patient. The woman reacts to an object that falls nearby and catches his attention. Excited by this discovery, the doctor gathers his colleagues to share his findings. He demonstrates that the woman effortlessly catches a ball thrown to her. His colleagues, however, dismiss it as a residual reflex and scoff at the newcomer's explanation. They leave, leaving the doctor feeling ridiculed and alone.
Let us know if she catches anything else.
No one believes him except the nurse. Miss Costello supports the doctor in his endeavor and volunteers to help him get used to the new place as quickly as possible. Malcolm becomes interested in his work. He begins to look at the other patients to gather as much information as possible about his observations. In the playroom, the doctor notices his patient. Lucy goes to the water fountain alone, but strangely stops halfway.
Lucy, you're almost there. Come on.
Later, the doctor comes across a woman talking to her paralyzed son, Leonard, the same boy we met at the beginning of the movie. Malcolm approaches her and asks why she is doing this, given her son's inability to respond. The woman assures him that her son communicates with her in his own way, though different from conventional methods. Afterwards, the doctor, accompanied by a nurse, examines the medical records of all the chronically ill patients and discovers a common feature. Their conditions have remained unchanged for decades, and their diagnoses are categorized as atypical cases. This discovery puts our character on high alert. At night, he returns to the hospital and meticulously studies the histories of his patients, focusing on one particular group, all of whom suffered from lethargic encephalitis at a young age.
I found the connection. They all survived encephalitis.
See, I'll come back later.
Please.
Malcolm continues to gather more information about the disease. He is particularly interested in what these patients think and whether they have any reason at all. Seeking guidance, he consults a professor who has previously studied the disease. The professor firmly believes that the patients are completely unaware of their surroundings, as any awareness would subject them to unimaginable torment. One day, while looking out of the window, the doctor notices a girl playing hopscotch. This sight inspires him to try another experiment. He draws black squares on the floor of the game room and brings Lucy to them, believing that her lack of progress is due to a lack of visual rhythm. To his surprise, Lucy manages to navigate through the black squares and reach the end. The doctor is deeply disturbed by this discovery, as it underscores the immense struggle his patients face in their current state. The doctor decides to run a brain encephalogram on Leonard, addressing him by name. The results show a clear burst of activity at that moment. Encouraged, Malcolm involves the entire ward staff in further experiments. Using a ball trick, they form an experimental group. The doctor is convinced that these individuals are still in possession of their minds, even if they require a unique approach. Some patients respond to their favorite music, while others enjoyed playing cards. Leonard, however, surpasses all others, demonstrating nonverbal communication with the doctor using a book he read as a child. During their session, Leonard invents the name of his favorite author, whose work eerily mirrors his current paralyzed state.
His gaze has grown so weary. For him, no world.
After that, the doctor decided to help the unfortunate people by all means. Their symptoms are similar to Parkinson's disease, so our character will decide to apply a similar treatment to them. Since no one has tried this approach before, the chief physician agrees to allow only one patient for the experiment, and only with written permission from a relative. Determined, the doctor visits Mrs. Lowe and uses his openness and kindness to convince her to give her son a chance. Treatment begins. The standard doses of the drug have no effect, so the doctor has to make a bit of rule-breaking. At night, he goes to the lab and measures the maximum possible dose and gives it to Leonard. During the night, Malcolm wakes up to an empty bed. He goes looking for his patient and finds him sitting at a table in the game room. The experimental treatment has a remarkable effect. Leonard, who had been paralyzed for 30 years, was a boy who fell asleep and woke up as an adult. Although everything around him had changed, he could still easily recognize his aged mother. Dr. Sayer's unconventional approach achieved an incredible result, earning him great respect among his colleagues. They all rejoice at having awakened a patient who seemed beyond hope. However, our character becomes increasingly concerned about Leonard's mental state, realizing that he is essentially a little boy trapped inside the body of an adult man.
Well, a wonderful place the Bronx has become. That's my school. Really?
Leonard gets better every day. Dr. Sayer begins to take him on personal outings and introduces him to the modern world. Leo shows by his example that there are a lot of nice things in life besides work that you should not give up. For the first time, our character has a real friend, albeit under such strange circumstances. Later at work, Malcolm requests additional funding to extend treatment to the remaining patients. The head doctor refuses to allocate such a large sum. Undeterred, one by one, the employees of the ward step forward and volunteer their donations. In the following scene, Dr. Sayer makes a compelling presentation to the Board of Trustees, showing the remarkable awakening of his seemingly hopeless patient.
My name is Leonard Lowe. I'm back.
He manages to impress the audience, leading them to fund treatment for the entire experimental group. The doctor prescribes the proven dosage to the patients, and that very night the entire ward becomes a lively and bustling place. Our characters exchange glances, realizing that together they have accomplished the impossible. The next day, the patients attract attention with their newfound activity. Having slept for a long time, they are now full of energy and refuse to rest for a moment. In the midst of this lively environment, Leonard notices an attractive girl who frequently visits the hospital to read messages to her paralyzed father. Sue, the doctor, accompanied by his assistants, organizes a special outing for all his patients, allowing them to experience a tour. Despite their adult appearance, they still behave like children. Leonard, however, declines the trip, preferring to spend time with the attractive stranger who has just arrived at the hospital to visit her father.
Are you all right? I'm fine. Have a good time. I'm coming.
At lunch in the cafeteria, the girl initially mistakes Leonard for a doctor because of his good looks and seemingly normal behavior. As they sit at the table, the young people strike up a friendly and open conversation. Paula shares details about herself and her father, whom she is visiting, while Leonard listens attentively and speaks honestly about his unique situation. They chat throughout the evening, but when visiting hours come to an end, the girl must leave.
Paula, your father, he knows you visited.
Life in the experimental ward gradually improves, with the patients behaving remarkably normally. There seems to be no difference between them and the staff of the institution. In addition to his mother, Leonard's new acquaintance begins to visit often. One night, Leo calls the doctor to tell him something very important. When Malcolm arrives at the hospital, he notices a strong emotional arousal in his patient. Leo asks to organize a meeting with the institution's administration to stress the importance of cherishing life and finding joy in each day. The doctor finds the idea intriguing, but doesn't fully understand the reason for Leonard's emotional outburst. A colleague suggests that it might be love. At the meeting, Leonard actually tries to ask for additional rights for himself. The man demands a free visitation schedule because he is not a criminal but needs to be under constant supervision. It is during this agitated speech that Leonard's nervous twitching first appears and is noticed by the members of the commission. Malcolm then announces the overall verdict. The commission denies Leonard's request due to the unique and experimental nature of his case, along with concerns about potential unforeseen consequences. Leonard feels deeply disappointed by the decision and turns to the doctor, seeking his opinion on the matter. Malcolm, supporting the general decision, highlights the experimental nature of the treatment and the potential risks of complications. Leo, taken aback by his friend's response, abruptly stands up and heads towards the exit.
No, I'm sorry.
After the incident, the man is transferred to a ward for patients with nervous disorders. Through his passionate speeches, he quickly gains influence over the violent patients and becomes their leader, inciting them against the hospital staff. However, Leonard's condition worsens by the day, and the effectiveness of his treatment diminishes. Finally, he reaches a state of calm, and Dr. Sayer brings him back to his unit, asking everyone on the ward for understanding and support for his troubled friend. Leo is warmly received and treatment resumes, but other patients on the ward begin to worry that they may face a similar fate in the future. Although the doctor increases the dosage of the medication, there is no improvement in Leonard's condition. He begins to experience paralysis throughout his body and gradually loses his mind. The regression he experiences mirrors his childhood condition. During a later meeting, Mrs. Lowe begs them to stop torturing her son and let him rest peacefully. Later, Leonard teddies up for the last time and goes on a date with a girl. At the dance, there is a brief moment of normalcy as Leonard calms down, leaving Paula unable to hold back tears. They both realize that this will be their last meeting. Eventually, Leonard falls asleep, with his mother at his side as always. In the next scene, the doctor sits down to review the footage and reflect on the events that have unfolded.
How kind is it to give life, only to take it away again?
Miss Costello, understanding his grief, offers comfort and reminds him that the loss of a friend is always a challenging experience for a kind-hearted person. The summer has been an extraordinary time for the entire hospital department. Unfortunately, no miraculous recoveries occurred, and all the patients returned to their previous state of rest. There are various speculations surrounding why the medication didn't produce the desired results. One thing is for sure, the human spirit proved to be stronger than any disease, which means that it is necessary to support it. It is worthwhile to continue working, making friends, loving, simply living and enjoying the little things. Thanks to everyone who watched until the end. On this channel, you will always find retellings of good movies.